Hello and welcome to NJ Biz Conversations. I'm your host, Jeff Kanaj. My guests today are Bill Screef and Todd Reinhardt. They are the founders of Dead Lizard, which is a creative advertising agency, advertising marketing agency with offices in Roseland. Todd and Bill, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Happy to be here.
Thanks for joining me. I appreciate you taking the time. The first thing I wanted to start with is the origin story of Dead Lizard. With a name like that, obviously, I'd like to start to hear how you two got together, and what the process was of putting the firm together.
It's actually quite a funny story. Bill and I have been working together since the early '90s, and we're both graduates of Syracuse University.
Okay.
We got hired into a company here in New York. That did at that time, they did a lot of digital kind of sales kind of presentation work for companies like IBM and Aptiva. I don't know if you guys remember, like CompUSA back in the day, but
Sure.
If you go there, you can see all those little kiosks they have running. We did that sort of stuff. But we started working together there, and we ended up developing a software package that actually competed at the time with Director and PowerPoint. It was a custom package that we coded and built, and Bill and I were in charge of basically the creative arm, right? So we had our software group that did all the application development, and then we did all the design work and used it to make basically encyclopedia type projects for companies like Hilton, and where they could show all of their amenities and all of their hotels, or we did an interactive dossier for James Bond that was an encyclopedia of all the different James Bond movies and all that kind of fun stuff. A lot really fun
Everything
project.
up to GoldenEye.
Yep.
So.
Okay.
And eventually we ended up starting running up against a larger internet conglomerate at the time in the '90s there called IXL, which they didn't like losing to us in these pitches, so they decided to purchase the company. And so we got merged in there. It was a crazy, wacky time, right? We had a whole bunch of there were about 4 or 5 companies that the parent company had purchased. They threw us all into one office floor on Fifth Avenue around Union Square and said, work it out, basically. And so we did, and eventually they really wanted to go the route of doing large enterprise portal kind of engagements with larger businesses. So like the stuff we had developed, they really had no use for this software package. So Bill and I chatted with several other people there that were from our original company, and we decided to purchase rights to the software and spin it out.
Okay.
And we did that. When was that? It
was in '99.
'99.
Okay.
Right. And so actually, and the code name for the software that was being developed was actually powered by Iguana. And so when we actually spun out, we took about 30 to 35 people, and we got an office space down at 14 Wall Street, and we started Iguana Interactive. And we did that just as the internet just was booming, and everyone was looking for an opportunity to make a lot of money on some kind of internet or new technology firm. And so we had actually gotten venture capital from like a Canadian VC group. And I think they quickly realized that they didn't quite understand the business, because they were more about restructuring like just brick and mortar companies.
Okay.
And not dealing with new business. And then we had the real great opportunity to work with some much larger clients. So we still had been working with like at Hilton, British Airways, and actually NFL. But come the internet bubble burst back in 2001, they were deciding it's time to get out. And so we had to shutter. But a lot of our clients, because the way Todd and I work is not just loving the creative work that we do, but it's really establishing really good relationships. It's kind of just, for us, was the natural way to do business. And so the NFL had actually come back to us and said, listen, we want you guys to wrap up this work for us. And we're like, you do realize that we're closing our doors? And they went, no, we understand that. We want to work with you guys, but we're going to need you to reincorporate. So because they didn't want to work with just anybody with, working out of a garage. So Todd and I then just started Dead Lizard out of Iguana Interactive.
Okay.
And we were able to work with the NFL. And then we had, it's very interesting how all the relationships are very viral. So we ended up working our way into NBC. So we had been working with like Bravo and Sci-Fi, NBC News, entertainment, sports. We really started to get just like really deep into that company. And then also working with, actually at the time it was Buena Vista. So it was the syndicated branch of Disney. But we still actually have relationships with all those people that we started with over 20 years ago. So it's just interesting that, Todd and I, though we were working with a software company, we still, our love is the creative. And we said, let's just stick with what we do. That no way around it. Just it's a lot of fun toys that you can play around with to create this great creative work. And it's also it's not just one thing that we do. So we ended up doing mostly, I would say, sales and marketing presentations for the media and entertainment companies.
Okay.
But through other contacts, it became, like Todd's actually worked on out of home billboard and subway and bus ads, just working with some of these national campaigns. And, we've been doing a lot of motion graphic work, especially for like upfront events.
Okay.
So,
All right. Well, you've both touched on what my next question was going to be, and that is what differentiates your firm from others. I'm hearing the kind of relationships that you have, and some of the sort of the focus of the work that you do. But I don't want to put words in your mouth. So give us a little sense of why Dead Lizard is different from others.
Yeah, no, I think that's at our core, Jeff. I think we are really a relationship based kind of organization. Creative solutions, they're all about communication, right? You don't have creative if you can't communicate artwork and design. So it's kind of core to our being, but we also are very much centered on developing long-term relationships. And Bill and I I don't know, I guess we were just baked that way, Bill. I don't know, but we really approach every project not as an individual project, but as an opportunity to develop a long-term partnership. And we've got a very good track record with doing that. So we try, and it's helpful. Like what we do. A lot of times we come in as a brand consultant, and we help with tactics and strategy in terms of advertising and marketing. We plug into existing marketing teams. So it's actually really important that we understand the brand that we're working with, and kind of internalize their syntax and how they chat about everything. So that really, we like these clients we've had for 20 odd years, like Disney, and they can send us an email like, hey, I need an e-blast for this event. And we're like, okay, we know exactly what that means. It's like, we don't need a full creative brief. We actually know that, we've worked with you guys for so long. We know what you need. We know how to do it. And it becomes a very efficient process. And a lot of times we end up kind of working as an out-of-house, in-house design firm.
Okay.
So we kind of plug in, and this is one of the ways we plug in with Disney in particular, is that we plug in directly into their creative solutions department that services the entire portfolio. So whenever they have needs that they have trouble, it's hard to have a small group of people service, how many networks. So, we end up being a group that is intimately aware and acquainted with their brands, so that they can just easily say, okay, we're working on X, Y, and Z, process right now with these summits coming up, but we don't have time for this push on that National Geographic. Can you guys do this work? And we kind of, just kind of work with them, week to week, day to day, in terms of helping out.
All right.
And actually, even when it comes to relationships, we've only once actually had a it was like a postcard campaign of just like new business development back in 2002. And that was the last time, and everything else has been referrals and based on our relationships. So I think that's a good differentiating factor. And I think it's also, I don't know, and especially with a lot of the relationships that we have, it's been great because there's a lot of times where Creative Shop can be pigeonholed with, oh, they just do presentations. And we've made some inroads with production studios that are creating new content for, either the History Channel or Food Network, or even like Vizio is creating new content right now. And we actually work with them to create their motion graphics packages and their brand identity systems. So, with the logo and creating their title page or their title sequence, lower thirds, all that kind of stuff. Still doing presentations, and then also, working with creating motion graphics, like I said earlier, for different events. And it really is amazing that once you really understand the tools that are available, especially that Adobe has an application for everything. There's an app for that, that we're able to really facilitate all of these different kinds of creative needs.
Okay. All right. Now, you mentioned some of your clients. You mentioned Disney. You've also worked with the Weather Channel, Tribeca Film Festival. I'm curious if there's one project that is your favorite or that exemplifies the kind of work that you do. You don't have to name the client if you don't want to. I'm just interested in what you see as sort of a model for what folks should realize that you guys do.
Well, I think really our bread and butter, Jeff, it is kind of the ad sales marketing collateral materials that we supply to our media entertainment clients.
Okay.
So I would say probably stuff that most exemplifies what we do is probably the work we do with Disney.
Okay.
Because they do hit us on pretty much every aspect. We do digital, email marketing, print, event support, video, all that kind of stuff, and all of that gets spread around all their initiatives for ad sales. So like we actually go in, and I don't know, we've been doing this since what, Bill, 2013. We basically go in and work on site with them at their major upfront event every year, and develop the graphics package. So these upfront events, they all the networks go out and they try to sell 75 to 85% of their overall ad inventory for the year. And they have these huge, big shows. So like all the video, the graphics and stuff that goes up on the screens, and stuff like that. That's what we help out with for that event, but then we can also work on the posters, all these other things that may be there, all the presentations that then flow out of that in terms of what they take, what the individual salespeople might take for individual meetings outside of the main event, and stuff along those lines. But that is the bread and butter. But then we also have a bunch of projects that we really are quite passionate about, and they let us step out of that kind of area, right? Because ad sales and marketing, it's a rail that you're on. And then there's a whole bunch of, constraints and things that you have to follow and do. But we just a year ago, we got to work on our first feature film. So we did an indie film called Good Egg, which is we just got distribution. Is in the process. It's doing the circuit with Tribeca and everybody all over the place. And we ended up helping out with them by doing all of their visual effects work and the title sequence. And that was a lot of fun because those sorts of jobs where we're dealing with original programming, original content. It's nice to be able to have work that's being done for the sake of the art, right? That's for the sake of the narrative or the story, as opposed to saying, okay, we have this really cool sizzle reel we need you to do, but you know what? We got to sell to women 18 to 54, and all that, with all those other prerequisites in there that we need to hit or whatever. And you can just say, you know what, this is the piece. It needs to talk to this, and we really get to kind of hit it out of the park and have fun with it. And
Oh, okay.
Bill and I both have backgrounds in illustration
I
traditionally.
was gonna mention that.
So like we get to utilize, like, for that title sequence, we got to hand illustrate all of the title sequence, which was a lot of fun.
Okay, interesting. All right. I have to ask you about doing business in New Jersey. The state has a lot of advantages and disadvantages, costs being the biggest disadvantage. What's it like operating here, and why are you here?
That's an interesting story because I think it all started back with Katrina.
Oh, okay.
Because I had actually come out to New Jersey, and I've been living in Livingston now for quite some time, raising my family here. And at the beginning, when Todd and I were working together and keeping it very small, I was actually just freelancing, or not freelancing, working out of my home and having a home office there. But then when Katrina hit, our area got hit really badly. So we were without power, I would say, for 2.5 weeks. And
Wow.
that you really, you need to be productive even during those quote unquote dark times.
Mhm.
What's interesting is right next door, we've got Roseland, and they've got some really great office campuses. And so right now we're based out of Roseland, right off of 280 and Eisenhower Parkway.
Sure.
And with all the lines being submerged, so that there weren't any down power lines, the lights were on. So I actually then started working out of offices here, and I've been in this current building now for the past, my gosh, it must be about, it's over 10 years now.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
and it's a great area just because it's very accessible. If you want to catch the train, it's 10 minutes down the road to Orange. You can just zip into the city. We've actually had a lot of our most of our clients are New York City based,
Right.
but a lot of them actually really do enjoy coming out here, working on site, or just
Surprising number, shocked
a
us. I
shocking
mean,
number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
And I think now, especially after COVID, everyone's like, oh, I don't have to be at the office. And we actually have one client who comes here like once every other week and works here during the day. And we are able to work together on some of the more like just intensive projects, and still doing your regular day-to-day stuff while they're busy and doing their conference calls. So that's been great. And originally we were incorporated out of New York City.
Mhm.
And we found out you really shouldn't incorporate like that. It just for tax purposes, etc. So we formally moved out to Jersey because that's just it's a better deal. And another great reason why we're actually here in Jersey is that we are kind of centrally located. So between Todd, who is based out of Brooklyn, we have our office here, and then we have our design director will drive in twice a week from Pennsylvania.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So luckily he really likes to drive.
Well, it can be fun.
Yep.
Yeah, and we did we had a distributed workforce before it was cool, with everybody doing it with COVID. So it was odd that we didn't have a whole lot of changes that way. But yeah, we kind of felt went that route, Jeff, right? Where it's like, okay, financially, this is kind of silly. We're a small group. If we're incorporating in New York, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. If we had a large group where we had, prime, commercial real estate that made sense in the city, but we weren't, so we did end up moving out by Bill because he was already at the space over there.
Mhm.
And then we thought, it's a really good base of operations out there in Jersey. And we didn't see a whole lot of other companies like ourselves that are operating out there in that
Okay.
way. And there's a lot of talent in Jersey that, just gets poached, really. It just, moves off to Manhattan,
Right.
or whatever. And, so we've actually done a lot of our focused kind of hiring, through colleges and other, internship kind of stuff, as well as, just generally looking at people living around the area so that we can get, Jersey artists working at the Jersey office, which
Okay.
just seems to make sense to us.
Well, and that's what I was curious about was whether you actually have the workforce available to you.
Mhm.
What I think the common perception of people who are creative like that want to be in Manhattan, or want to work in Manhattan. But what I hear you saying is that hasn't been a problem for you.
Well, but we're going to be real.
Yeah.
It's not a non-challenge.
Okay. All right.
Right? There's definitely a draw with New York City, and by far there are much more jobs, available
Certainly.
out there.
Mhm.
So it is a strong competitive factor. But I think there's a niche there, right? There's a niche for some of the very talented people that are out there in Jersey that's not that the draw of New York is not necessarily outweighed by the fact that they could have a business right here in their backyard that that's working with Disney, that's working with all these
Scripps
big
and Time
names,
Warner and
Scripps and Weather Channel, and has all the A-list kind of clientele that you'd find in your typical agency in Manhattan. You just don't have to go to Manhattan every
Okay.
every day.
and
Um,
especially after COVID. I think
right.
a lot of people, there was that a bit of an exodus and, then offering to say, hey, you don't have to do that crazy commute every morning now, that another option.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and that was I guess was the other factor, is that it's not just creative people who don't want to get on New Jersey Transit every day,
Yeah.
or fight the traffic. That they lots of folks have decided that it's actually better to get in my car and go have a parking lot where I can don't have to go up, maybe not even go up in an elevator or anything like that. So
Right.
okay. Now, the Murphy administration and their economic development folks have made a concerted effort to try to bring television and movie production to New Jersey to sort of build that industry up. Does that help you at all, or are you optimistic about where that's going?
It might. Like a lot of the production companies that we plug into, Jeff, they do most of the video shoot and all that kind of planning, and then we come in and work on the post work, so the graphics development, and all that kind of thing. So
Mhm.
we're not as tied to the geographic, shooting
Right.
location
Mhm.
as much, because we can really work with anyone. Sure, if there are more productions happening in Jersey, that would definitely be something that we could lean into. Although I can't say that we've seen an uptick yet in
Okay.
those types of jobs. But we would certainly take advantage of that should that start to materialize. But yeah, it's like if we were actually going out and working with networks and directors and stuff, in the sense of getting location, doing all the video shoots, and whereas we can do that and we have facilitated it, we recognize that that's not our bread and butter. Normally when we do that, we come in and we kind of shoot for a particular piece, as opposed to, like, let's say, a series or a movie. So it's generally much kind of smaller insertion point than I think a lot of these incentives are really trying to target.
Okay. So, given that, what's next for you? Where is the growth going to come from for Dead Lizard? How do you see the future?
Actually, we are working with a sales and market, or actually a marketing PR firm right now, and have been for the past almost 2 years now. That we've really we want to make a decidedly different change in how we're approaching things. For a very long time, Todd and I wanted to keep things very lean and mean, keeping budgets down. But we're really looking for, I mean, we've been able to last for 20 plus years now, and we're really looking at the longevity of the company.
Mhm.
And so we're making some new business inroads. So we really do want to bring on, much more, like, before we worked with a lot of freelancers, contractors, and now we want to
Other
bring
small businesses.
staff. And just as a small business, just financially, it's amazing when it comes to healthcare coverage or just many other benefits that you need to kind of hit that 5-person or 10, more likely 10-person limit, and then suddenly things become a lot more economically feasible. but I would probably say we would like to get to that 10-person size within the next 1 to 2 years.
Oh, okay.
So we really are looking at growth, and now actually, I don't know if we'll do a postcard, campaign, but we definitely are doing some more like real true new business development.
All right. So, and that sounds more like organic to me rather than acquisitions. Is that where you're going?
Yes.
Okay.
No, that is fair. Yeah, we'd like to grow organically and add, people on as we kind of determine the growth pattern that would be best, Jeff. But yeah, it's kind of, and we're having all the same struggles that all small businesses have, right? It's like the chicken and the egg with sales versus growth. We have all of our creative staff, but we need managerial staff as well. So, where do you invest first? And we're kind of going through that and really working through a plan here at the moment to see the best way to get to the target of getting, that 10 plus area and just really getting a much more, broadly based and solid kind of organization to work with a bunch of resources that really allow us to springboard into facilitating much larger jobs and many more concurrently parallel jobs as well.
Okay. And I'm sorry, go ahead.
I would just say, like, one also, like, it's not a strange point, but it's, relationships not only work for our clients, but we also wanted to decidedly have control over what's the culture of the company. And so rather than merging and acquiring someone else, we really do want to find the right people that are the good fit. And we've been very lucky right now with the people that we do have on staff right now, that it's just, they're, for lack of a better term, just really good people.
Okay. All right. And finally, before I let you go, I'm curious as to your assessment of the economy now and going into next year. Marketing and advertising, PR, those sorts of things, those expenses tend to be one among the first that a lot of companies pull back on. Are you concerned at all about the future? Are you optimistic? What are you planning for over the next, say, 18 months?
Well, I think we are, honestly, Jeff, coming out of, at this point, I'm kind of the opinion, if we made it through COVID, we got to be somewhat optimistic at least, right?
Right.
So, because that was a struggle.
Okay.
And coming back out of it, our clients, it's interesting because there have been definitely shifts in money. Everybody is more conservative right now. A good chunk of our clients have pulled back on their ad spend and their marketing spend, like everybody, right?
Right.
So that's kind of dovetailing also with how we're approaching kind of new sales biz and how we're going to kind of grow that kind of area as well. But it is, I don't know. And honestly, the particular subset of advertising and marketing that we're in, which is media and entertainment, is also facing its own kind of existential crisis at the moment.
That's for sure.
With streaming and it's just like the intense, fragmentation that has happened of the audience. So everybody is all of our clients are really scrambling and trying to figure out how to navigate that. The good news is that I don't think you're actually going to see quite as much of a hit in the advertising and marketing in kind of the groups that we deal with in media and entertainment, as you may have seen in other industries, simply because it is the bread and butter for them, right? It's kind of like it's not BMW where they're selling cars too, it's like it's like either they get ad money or they don't get money. And now that all the streamers are pretty much have ad tiers at this point, right? The subscription models or only models seems to generally be a thing of the past. I don't think of any large, any of the big streamers at this point that is purely subscription only. So we'll have to see how that kind of shakes out and how that goes. But in that end, ultimately, all those people still need materials to be able to go out and pitch and make their sale. And it's definitely changed, right? There's been a massive shift towards digital. And I think a huge part of that was precipitated by the pandemic because people just were at home and they realized, hey, I have nothing to do but stream. So let's, do all this sort of stuff. And it really shifted behavior, viewing behavior. So, that's something that, we've, through our Disney clients, we've been able to work with Hulu and, and we've done branded content kind of development with companies like Tumblr and stuff like that as well, to help with their ad revenue and develop kind of tactics and strategies where they can develop money on social platforms. So it's like there is kind of a spread there in terms of how we're kind of balancing things out. But to that end, yeah, we are balancing and kind of spreading out a bit to try to help account for, the serious changes that are happening kind of in linear entertainment and media entertainment in general. It's a dicey situation right now, but I think we're hanging on pretty well, and we've got a good, the relationship building really does help. When you really do work as a partner, and know that you try to develop a collaborative environment with your clients so that they know you're on their team and you have their best interests at heart. That does help in terms of keeping things going and keeping lines of communication open.
Okay, well, I think that's a good place to leave it. Bill Screef and Todd Reinhardt, Dead Lizard co-founders, thank you very much for joining me today. I appreciate you taking the time.
And again, thank you for having us.
It was our pleasure, Jeff. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And thank you all for watching. Until next time, stay safe, everyone.
Great. Thanks.